All right, here we go. Marcellus Wiley, welcome back.
Oh man, appreciate it. How you been, big dog?
I've been good. It's
Oh,
been
man.
a couple of years since last time.
Yeah, man. Still out here getting it. Still talking for a living. Robbing them, loving it, man. It's been fun.
Me too. I'm still talking for a living. Ain't it like the best job in the world?
Nah, it ain't the best. It's the second best. Talking sports, talking rap, talking entertainment is second. Best is what the Kardashians got going. Just going to brunch and getting that kind of money just for eating and shopping. We in second place, dog.
We're in second place, but we don't have to expose our entire lives to the world, though.
That's real. And take hell every time you do. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I'd rather do what I do than be a reality star. I've turned down reality shows before. I'm good.
Same here. Scripted reality too, which is crazy. Like, is it real or not?
Exactly.
Come on, y'all.
Yeah, usually it isn't.
Yeah.
Usually it isn't.
Already.
But let's go ahead and get right into it. Recently, you had some comments about Colin Kaepernick
Yeah.
that ruffled a lot of feathers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. So before I get into your comments, first of all, and we didn't talk about this last time because last time all this hadn't happened yet. What did you initially think when Colin Kaepernick started kneeling while he was still playing for the NFL?
Yeah, my initial thoughts when he was kneeling, I was skeptical. And skeptical for me meant knowing him previous and prior to him kneeling and having a healthy respect for him, but wouldn't have been the first guy I thought would have been a leader of a movement. But why disqualify anybody when they're trying to do something so worthy, so noble, and especially because of the effects and who he was trying to help in the cause was near and dear to my heart. And it was something that I think many of us had already tried to do in our own versions, but this seemed bigger, this seemed greater. So even though I questioned at first, I said, let me watch him go get it. And I stood on the sidelines in terms of me paying attention to him, but I always looked at it like, let's do this the right way because you have garnered so much attention. This movement is gigantic. Do it right. And I started to see early on, initially, a lot of missteps. Now, my spidey sense, my experience, I saw those missteps as someone who wasn't really in depth with the cause that they were fighting for. I saw those missteps, someone who didn't necessarily have the gravity and understanding of what they had in terms of responsibility, in terms of what the cause really meant. So I had to go back to what my coaches used to say. Everything in life, everybody you meet in life, give them the vowels test. And the vowels test is the A-E-I-O-U. The A is the aptitude. Can they even comprehend the enormity of this? And then the E is for somebody who's out there and you're like, look, if they have this opportunity, what they gonna do with it? And I was like, is he really gonna be somebody who wants to do this the right way? So A-E-I-O-U. You talk about his excellence, can he do it? His intent, and then the opportunity, how grand it is, and then it's about you. So I read that and I just stood still. And then it just kept snowballing. So, he was sitting instead of kneeling, minor, misdemeanor. That turned into a situation where the Castro shirt comes with Malcolm X. A lot of people were split on that. Not tripping. I was like, okay, but not necessarily what you need to see right now in that moment. It's sparking division. It's sparking controversy beyond what the intent of the cause is. So it just kept going, and it turned into more than just the cause. It morphed, and it lost its way. And the longer it went, the more silent he got. Bad boys move in silence, and I guess bad leaders too. If you talk about how this situation is played out, man, I'm like, how does it get greater and you give us less in terms of your investment? But you got to remember who his mentor is, Dr. Harry Edwards, who went on record and said, look, to ignite a movement is one thing, but that does not necessitate you to be the leader of that same movement. Now, I've heard they had their issues and they're falling out, and I certainly know that Nessa has taken her shots at Dr. Harry Edwards, so I don't know where their relationship is, but it just kept snowballing, and it was getting greater in attention, but not really greater in terms of how things were working out with the intent focus on just the cause. And I'm not here to doubt the man's works. His Know Your Rights camp is amazing. A lot of people have camps that I respect and represent and always participate in. But this was bigger than just a camp. This was an opportunity to really leverage and monetize and materialize so many different allies and resources for those who are deeply affected by this. But I think all in all, it was an opportunity lost, even though he did tremendous work.
Well, how well did you know Colin Kaepernick before he started protesting?
I mean, we had each other's number, probably never hit each other, but, we'd see each other at many of events, deeper than what's up, dog, but not going home to the same spot and going to kick it after. So knew him and just let it go. That's why, look, I stood still for 3 years and just was watching, just measuring, just respecting. I wasn't going to go take a shot at the guy because, one, I didn't know him that deeply before, and two, I wanted to see him unveil what the cause was, so I had to respect that.
In terms of the timing of when the protest started, because this is, some people's issue with it. Kaepernick didn't start kneeling when he was a starter. He started kneeling near, what you could say was the end of his career with the NFL.
Yeah.
He was no longer actively playing. He was on the bench. He was no longer considered a top quarterback at that time. For example, you look at a Patrick Mahomes, right? If he started kneeling right now, it would have a very different effect in the NFL than a Kaepernick.
Right.
Patrick is one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He's a game changer. At the time, Kaepernick was not. So was that part of the equation in terms of what you saw? Like, okay, he's kneeling, but he's not, a factor on that team and in the NFL in general at that time.
Yeah, that's a factor. I mean, all of these elements are a part of the equation. You got to respect every single variable. So for me, as a commentator, it's not just opinion-based. It's fact-based. I can't go out there knowing what my platform is and just shoot a shot unless I know exactly what I'm saying. And it's congruent with reality, with facts. So the devil's in the details when you talk about Kaepernick. Knowing his situation in terms of the kneeling and being privy to that, his intent was to kneel while he was a starter. However, because of the 4 surgeries he had in the offseason, he was losing tons of weight. He wasn't a starter because he had missed so much time in dealing with those injuries. So it's a coincidence that he's not a starter because by ability he was a starter, but he had lost his position because of all those issues. But, those are little small points to the greater picture, which is he didn't do it at his high point. He didn't use this and maximize his leverage, like I said earlier, at his high point, which we all know is not ideal, but still, hey, you can pick this movement up, pick this cause up, and still do great things. It obviously made a ton of noise, even as a backup. So I didn't disqualify him for that as well. I was just like, okay, we're going to see how this plays out. But it was peculiar. It was like, emotionally, where is this guy? I knew he had met Nessa before, and things had changed in terms of his scope, in terms of what he was looking at in life and what was valuable to him. Everything was starting to change, and I respected that. Little Tupac song came to my head, I Ain't Mad At You, where, we was once 2 of the homies of the same kind, but, things flipped for him, and I respected that. But it went in a different direction, and I tried to see it through, but now we're here.
As a former football player, you could really answer this question better than me and most people. When you look at the skill level of a Kaepernick after he left the NFL, did he deserve a spot on an NFL team? Or was he just not good enough to play after he was let go?
Oh, he absolutely deserves a spot on the team. Most teams keep 2 quarterbacks, some keep 3. So we're talking about 64 to 96 quarterbacks in the league. Is Kaepernick top 96? Hell yeah. You can make an argument that he's top 40, and that's being very critical of who he is. But your positions in professional sports is never based just on ability. Ask Carmelo Anthony right now. You know, this is a future Hall of Famer walking around, can still give you buckets, but is not in the NBA for other reasons. And it's funny that outsiders always forget that the other reasons are a part of the equation until it's a reason they don't like. We're mindful of it all the time. And it's not about getting line, it's about your professional. If they just wanted the best football players, they didn't give a damn about anything else. There are dudes in the hood. There are dudes who got astray. There's a dudes who went the wrong way. There's a dudes who locked up. There's a dude who's teaching. There's a dude at FedEx. Like, we're not just going out there in this meritocracy saying best football player only, who cares about the rest of his package. It's always been this package deal. And look, I went to Columbia, and they were looking at me like, I don't know, can he play? They sorry. And I'm like, you got to isolate variables. No, I didn't play against the great competition. It hurt me. But at the same time, I had my opportunity because they looked at the entire package, how I performed, how I did in the physical workouts at the combines, how I did in the interviews. So it's always a package deal going in. And like they say, the way you go in is the way you're coming out. It's going to be a package deal as well on the way out.
Before we get into what you said recently, I just have one more question.
Oh, yeah.
There's the lawsuit. Okay. He and another player sued the NFL.
Yeah. Eric Reed.
Right. And the NFL settled for an undisclosed amount. And the question that I keep seeing come up is, how do you sue a company, settle, get a paycheck, and then expect a job back afterwards?
Right. Like, that's really ignoring what human capital is. And I don't think a lot of people understand what human capital is. We call it networking a lot of times. But look, these are human beings at the end of the day. I know he's an owner or he's a billionaire and you seem distant from that, but that's a dude who goes home and is like, what the hell happened? So in the Kaepernick situation, which is amazing, is he lost sight of that. Now let's talk about the settlement. No one knows what he settled for. Definitively. And it's amazing that in that settlement, it's not implying guilt. People always think that once you settle, you're guilty. NFL's guilty. No, it's basically big bank takes little bank and says, look, I got so much money, I don't need to deal with this. All this time you're taking up is money. All this negative PR is money. I'm going to get back to the money-making business, get rid of you at a cost that is low to me but high to you. And the NFL is printing money. So they're like, Kaepernick, whatever that number is, if it's $1, if it's $100 million, even if it were $100 million, you know what the NFL has to do? Go to every single team and say, hey, this year, y'all got to give me $3 million extra. They're like, and that's not even a game. That's not even a game of revenue for these owners and teams. So I just want to set that record straight in terms of what guilt looks like. And it's not in settlement. But it's interesting that Eric Reed is now collecting 2 NFL checks, one by performance and one in settlement, and still just complaining about the NFL. Interesting. And then Kaepernick wants to get into the same NFL that he sued for collusion and lost wages. I asked everyone, if you were in a situation where you were unfairly treated and fired, would you ever sue for lost wages before they fully accrued, before they fully ran their length? Because you could get more money that way. Think about it. If your intent is to get the most money, why would you sue after just a year or 2 out the league? Why not wait 5, 8 until you know that you can't play anymore? I thought the timing of that suing using collusion, which is nearly impossible to prove, because it was just a bunch of independent thoughts, not someone going in the back room saying, keep him out the league, keep him out the league. It was crazy timing for me, because I knew things that other people didn't know. And remember, I'm sitting on this for 3 years, y'all. I know that Colin Kaepernick gave $1 million of his own dollars to the cause. Woo, salute. And I also know that his owner, Jed York, gave $1 million of his money to the cause. Salute. And then I also know that the same organization put together a meeting with all the police chiefs in the area, and Kaepernick flaked. After you get $1 million from this owner for your cause, and then you do them like that, the local churches that was waiting for Kaepernick to show up flaked. And it was just like, I'm sitting there like, y'all not putting 2 and 2 together? That you could say, and then you have opportunities to go to 2 or 3 teams. You opt out of your deal. You got a chance to go to 2 teams after that. We know what happened with Seattle. Basically, you're going to have to service Russell Wilson and get our starter, Russell Wilson, right. You down with that? Nah, that's not how I roll. We know what happened in Baltimore. You're supposed to go to Baltimore, and they're working on it. Ray Lewis is over there working his magic with the owner, and Biscotti. What happens? Nessa fires off a tweet from Django, making Ray Lewis look like a coon, quote-unquote coon, and him as a slave owner, the owner. What? So now you've exhausted the 49er opportunity because you opted out. You had Denver on the hook for a reduced contract before all this. You messed up Baltimore. You messed up Seattle. 4 teams, but you blackballed. I don't know what the definition of blackballed is to y'all, but to me, it's when you have no opportunities because of conspiracy. It's not when I mess up a bunch of opportunities and then say nobody else wants to hire me. I think word gets out that you're messing them up and people want to just go a different direction.
Well, I just want to touch on the lawsuit thing. When it comes to lawsuits, from the outside, people have never dealt with it before. People think, well, if you settle, that means that you're guilty or so forth. Most times, it really just comes down to an equation. Okay, it's going to cost me $1 million to settle. It's going to cost me $10 million to go to court, even if I win.
Yeah.
So I could go to court and win and pay nothing to the plaintiff, but I end up spending $10 million in legal fees. So I might as well spend this $1 million and settle and walk away from it. But what's also interesting that the amount was never disclosed. And people say, well, that's not really up to him. No, that really is up to him. Because when you and your lawyer figure out a settlement with the other side, you guys decide the terms of that settlement.
Yes.
You could say that I'm going to disclose the settlement, or you could say I'm not going to disclose it. Now, the other side usually doesn't want it disclosed, but it's up to you whether you want to sign or not. You could say, no, unless it's disclosed, I'm going to court. And your lawyer, who most times takes on these things on contingency if they feel there's a payday at the end,
right,
they have to listen to what you say.
Yep.
So ultimately, he decided to take that settlement himself, not his lawyer, himself, and he chose to do a non-disclosure on that. And that's really his choice.
Yep.
So everyone has to understand what this means and the whole picture when it comes to it.
Yeah, man, you talk about an NDA, and I've been in that situation before, non-disclosure agreement. You can look from the outside and say it's hush money, but you're right. You pay for my silence. Now, look, I had a settlement one time. I was living in Buffalo. I had a gardener put in flowers in my landscape, and the flowers died immediately because he put tropical flowers in Buffalo in the winter. And he sued me for $1,500. Now, I'm looking at my lawyer like, oh, your retainer is like 5 G's, so why in the hell would I pay to even fight this? And then I'm like, here's a G. Go away. Settlement. Just don't bring it up. Done. NDA signed. He gets his G. I'm not paying $5,000 just to fight for $1,500. That's how the NFL looked at this. They like, how much does this dude really want? Respect to what he's talking about, but make this go away.
So this brings me to your recent interview where you went all in.
Yeah, well, it felt all in because it was the first wave, but there's more. But yeah,
there's more.
It was all in.
Now, you brought up some interesting points, which a lot of people have issues with. The first point is that Kaepernick is a mixed kid that grew up in a white adopted family and does not understand the struggle of a typical black male. So go ahead and expand on that.
Yeah, one, saying someone is mixed race is matter of fact. If you take it as a negative connotation or a positive connotation, that's on you. But mixed race is a matter of fact. So I said his bio, and it's amazing. If you read me my bio, I'm not disturbed. I don't have a negative connotation. I'm not outraged by reading my bio in any capacity because it's who I am. I just told everybody who he was, and everybody went that way, which told me about what they were thinking. One, However, a mixed race guy who is raised by two white parents from Wisconsin to Central California where he lived, I think it was Trulock, is in this situation where I said, I'm not disqualifying him for leading this cause. I also said, it's not about race. I'm not talking about his black card, which I don't even think exists. I hate when people say your black card. I'm not pulling his black card. He's black. I never even talked about him being black or not. He's black. I also didn't talk about his complexion, which a lot of people are talking about. Mixed race, light skin. Y'all don't know any dark mixed race people? I do. So I don't know where that came from as well. I said this all because people are blind to what the conditions are in their world. There is a war going on, and they have combined forces, and they coexist only in one place. And the war is race and class. And now I'm going to take you back to what I studied growing up. I'm a sociology major, psychology minor, all in on this. And it's amazing that people keep thinking that I'm talking about his black card. I'm talking about the condition card. And you know where they combine race and class in this world? The lowest rung of race as deemed by society and the lowest rung of class deemed by society in the hood, in the ghetto, the lowest rung. Now, lowest rung comes from the one drop rule. What is the one drop rule, smart people out there? Do you know that there was a time that black people weren't allowed to pick exactly who they were in terms of ethnicity? They were actually told and couldn't fight back. Started in slavery, started in the South, Jim Crow era, reinforced this. And it was a racial discrimination. And lowest rung means, hey, you're half white and half black. But guess what we're going to do? Deem you to the subordinate group, the lower group. And that was a mechanism that slave owners used so they didn't have to be accountable and responsible for the kids that were mixed because the kids were deemed black. Y'all ain't even peeping this, but y'all talking about black cars still. So damn young in their minds. So anyway, I bring up the conditions because that's what the cause is about. The cause is about systemic oppression. It's about police brutality. It's about racial discrimination. And there are levels to this, y'all. See, I am a person that started from the bottom. Now I'm here and have gained the perspective of dealing with the visible weight of race, but the invisible weights of class. And in class, there are indicators now that says that class is the greatest, most potent indicator of your success in life, well beyond race now. Why is that? Because this world already told us what it's about. This country certainly did. It's capitalist. They said it's about money. So y'all don't believe me? Fine, do your own research, but let me give it to you in a nutshell. When I check Colin Kaepernick on his qualifications, I'm checking him because his lane is being measured by this cause, which is talking about the weight of this world. The world, when you're black, when you're poor, and when you're in the hood, is the heaviest by the system and by perception. Now, you will never escape being black in this world. Duh, it's your complexion, it's who you are. So the war on racism that all these race baiters keep going on and getting clicks and retweets and likes about just is disturbing to me because they're leading my people in the wrong direction, saying, hey, this is a war we can never win because we're always gonna be black, but try and fight it. So all they do is sensationalize race. And not a damn one of them, it seems like, is talking about class. Whereas class eats its own. Why is the middle class shrinking? Why is the gap between the haves and the have-nots growing? Why is the economic disparity between blacks and whites the same it is today as it was in 1970? You want to know why? Because nobody's looking at it through the right lens. Now, there are smart people that talk about this, but they don't get mainstream. The class angle. Do you know that if you are a middle-class white kid, you have an advantage over a lower-class white kid? That's interesting. I wonder why. Why would class matter if it's all about race? Do you know that if you're born poor as a black person, half the times you're going to die poor, 50%. You know, If you were born into a situation of success, it begets and it breeds success, even for black people. So this is a conversation that needs to be morphed, that I was trying to illustrate. But look, I do a sports show. Like, I can't go this hard and heavy on it, but I'm gonna give you some of the key guidelines to start to understand that this is deeper than just your color. Because we have this myopic view that the only issues plaguing us is police brutality in our encounters. It's really myopic. It's really saddening that people are not talking about the invisible chains. Because when you are really feeling the full weight of this systemic oppression, guess what you feel? Your life expectancy is reduced. Your health, in terms of health care, is reduced. When you talk about your employment opportunities, they're reduced. When you're talking about incarceration rates, they go up. When you talk about the criminal element around you, it goes up. Now I ask everybody, because I'm not going to bore y'all to death. Did Colin Kaepernick experience that? The full weight? No, he didn't. And that didn't disqualify him. But his missteps and his miscalculations and his lack of scope, at least through what he's saying in leadership, is why I finally got to this inflection point where I had to say something.
Okay, so the other thing that I think ruffled a lot of feathers in that interview that you did is this. You know, you said earlier that as Kaepernick started to gain more and more momentum, he started to speak less himself. He was not doing, verbal interviews. He was doing some print stuff here and there. He would tweet and, post here and there. But he was not speaking. And Nessa, his girlfriend, began to speak for him. Mm-hmm. And you made a point in that interview that Nessa is speaking for Colin Kaepernick, but she herself is not black.
Right.
She's Egyptian, I believe.
Yeah.
Which some people could classify as black, depending on the lens that you're looking at. But she is not an African-American black person, as you are or Kaepernick is, and so forth. And you had an issue with that. So can you explain why?
Yeah, I had an issue with it. I mean, look, like you said, you can look deeper into the Egyptian culture and what they're dealing with. I would dare anyone to ask a Nubian or a Sudanese about an Egyptian existence when they're being gunned down and people of color are being gunned down out there, having issues with the police. But I also, would question, why do Egyptians say, hey, I'm going to Africa, when they're talking about going within the same continent? It's pretty interesting. You got to do your own research on Egypt to understand this, versus sub-Saharan Africa, which is the lead way and the breeding ground for black America out here, or Middle Eastern culture, living in Saudi Arabia like she did, whatever. I'm not going to get bogged down in those details. I will say that what she's done is gotten real comfortable with the cause, which is fine because of her intimate experience with her boyfriend and Colin Kaepernick. But there's issue that I take that becomes an appropriation situation, because she's calling other brothers out outside their names. Ray Lewis, that suggestion that he's a coon. Now, I don't know where y'all from, but if someone non-black is talking about someone black in that respect, that's a violation, and that's a felony. That ain't misdemeanor. That's like, where are you coming from? Now, this appropriation situation has gotten out of control. It's not just Ray Lewis. It's Malcolm Jenkins and Big Boy from Outkast. Big Boy from Outkast is now under the fire of Nessa. What qualifies you for that? Travis Scott. Like, these are brothers who are doing their own works. No one raised their hands to say, I'm the leader of a cause. So no one is sitting there with that responsibility. But trust me, they're doing their own things. Jay-Z, like, we letting her get away with it. So, it's what Pac say? I got a lot of Pac for her. You might be deep in the game, but you got the rules missing. That's what this feels like. She deep in the game. I get it. Y'all cool. But we gave her a pass. And where I'm from, my grandma told me growing up, baby, it's okay to question God. And we were going to church every week. It's okay to question God. Just keep showing up. You mean I could question God, but I can't question Kaepernick? Y'all at that place in y'all life where we can't question Cap, but we can question God? Y'all tripping. So I'll call it out like I saw it. And Nessa is doing too much. She's crossed the line so many times. One, just in the professional scope, you're not Kaepernick. If he's really trying to get a job, either he has to speak or no one speaks in that respect. That's why I love Jay-Z. He sat there on his press conference, introductory press conference, and said, is this about a job or justice? Because y'all got it twisted. And it's amazing that a lot of her issue and disdain is for job and unemployment issues. But I thought y'all were the leaders of a cause. If you're not going to lead it, I ain't mad. Just stop acting like you are. Do like everyone else, including myself. I have a foundation. We doing it. But I ain't going to rile everybody up and then lead them in the wrong direction and then be a gatekeeper, supposedly, to telling people who can and cannot be a part of this cause. They had $89 million on the table with the Players Coalition that was given by the NFL. And her and company of Kaepernick are going to sneeze at that? Woo! That lets me know you don't know these conditions well enough to be clowning that.
Well, you talked about the Jay-Z press conference. Some of the things that he said that got people upset was the whole kneeling, being beyond that. Remember he said, we understand, we respect Colin kneeling, but we're beyond that. What's the next step? And a lot of people just went crazy over those statements. Like, how did you feel when he said that?
I loved it because I said that 3 years ago. Asked my boy Kelvin Washington, my partner at the time. Boy, it was tough trying to filter through this and give Colin his due respect. At the same time, knowing, get up, bruh. Like, just think, Colin Kaepernick kneeled, and within a month, he had $1 million from his own owner. Imagine if Colin Kaepernick wanted to make gremlins out there, just repeat himself as an ambassador around the league. That's 32 players who go up to their owner, day one, let me get $1 million. Boom. Now you got $64 million before you even got into an issue with anyone, before it became adversarial, before it even had contention. This is an alliance. J.J. Watt raised $40 million in like a week just because he rallied everyone. He was in alliance with everyone with the hurricane relief. Cap had people, he had them better than J.J. Watt did in terms of attention, in terms of endearment, and he let it all slip through. So when Jay-Z says we're past kneeling, we are. I am from a condition, a class, that when you're kneeling at kickoff, that's for awareness. Once awareness is gained, it's now time for action. So as Michael Eric Dyson wrote recently in his op-ed, and he's a mentor of mine, great guy. I love him, one of the smartest people I've ever met. Recently found out he's Jewish. Is he disqualified? Well, y'all stop. Like, y'all petty, y'all young. No, he's not disqualified. Here's the thing he said. We need someone to agitate on the outside, Colin Kaepernick protesting. And we need someone with action on the inside, changing the policies, the legislation. So from where I'm from, and speaking for the voiceless and powerless, we are past kneeling. Monetize, materialize, get some legislation, policy, and bring action and resources back to the environments that need value. So many of our arguments are misplaced on color and complexion. Trust me, that weight will never escape me or anybody else of color. But the indicators show that you gotta bring value to any equation for it truly to be affected. So that's all Jay-Z's trying to do. He's learned that from the bottom to where he is. This is not about black cards. This is not about how black are you. I don't question someone's blackness. I don't even care to even go through those levels. But I will question your condition. I will question your depth on something. And I will question you if you cross the line, as I feel that they have.
Eric Reed called Jay-Z despicable for the deal that he made with the NFL. And you responded to our article about that.
Right.
You said, disgusted again by his emotional thinking, referring to Eric. Obviously, Eric Reed thinks that you could win a chess match without pieces on the board. Ignorant. Remember, discontent for money is just like a trick of the rich to keep the poor without it. Get out your feelings. Kneeling to dealing, power, Jay-Z NFL. All hashtags.
All real, too. All real, man. Look, I mean, That's so amazing, and people probably skip past it. Was a Godfather too. Some Corleone said that. Discontent, and I grew up with a discontent that I had to unlearn. People always saying, you go in the neighborhood. Oh man, money is the root of all evil. I'm like, Grandma, you got to finish reading that passage. It's the love of money is the root of all evil, right? We're not talking about love and money. We're talking about increasing value, and it's amazing that Eric Reed had an emotional response, but look, he's an emotional thinker. He's a guy that looks at this world, as he said, through the James Baldwin lens of walking around in a constant state of anger. That's a reality for James Baldwin. That's a reality in that situation and context. But that is not a reality in its entirety. You need to be calculated in this. And you have to start to make these situations grander and better. And I just think that for my money, for my attention, I'd rather invest in true leaders. There are PhDs that I know on the ground that are nameless, that are so invested in this cause. But we put it in a backup quarterback. Hey, someone told you, when someone tells you who they are the first time, believe them. I was skeptical. I should have trusted my gut over my cognitive thought, but he had me just like everybody else. It's because what the cause represented, and it was so much that I didn't want this opportunity to be wasted, that I measured it and that I used caution. But now I'm just going to tell the truth. Backlash is funny. People are like, oh man, Marcellus, you really want the smoke. Look, I don't want the smoke, but I am very comfortable working in a smoke-filled room. I'm used to it. I'll tell you something my therapist told me a while back, a long time ago. With Stockholm Syndrome, everybody should know what that is. Affection for someone who's taking you hostage, imprisoned you. One of the passengers got off the Pan Am flight. And when he got off the flight, everyone was interviewing the passengers. Oh my God, such terror. Guys walking through the aisles with guns. Were you terrified? Were you scared? He said, no, I've been scared. Now, what that meant to him, because he was a guy who went through issues, went through problems, went through the Jewish experience with Hitler. And basically he was saying, I've been through it. I don't try and like wear cred. I'm not like, I'm from Compton, what? But I've been through it. And the smoke that you come with, keyboard killing me, that ain't going through it, y'all. I'm from a different spot. I'm from a different mindset, from a different place. Police pulled a shotgun on me because of mistaken identity. Had it right here. And it's in my book. All I was thinking is if this dude sneezes, it's a wrap. Gone. I've been through it before. So people don't understand my passion. People don't understand why I'm going against the grain, because I've been victimized by this same cause, and I felt the full weight of it before. And let's stop acting like feeling the full weight is a positive. My son is not going to feel the full weight, thankfully. My other two kids are not going to feel the full weight, thankfully, and nobody should question their blackness. I'm going to say be proud. That means mama and daddy did good, bro. I went through this dynamic at school. I'm at Columbia, and everybody want to play down to the lowest rung. I wonder why. One drop, right? One drop mentality. Everybody want to be broker than they are. Black people, white people. I'm like, dude, I knew a dude who came to school in a helicopter, got $25,000 a month and was trying to act like he was normal. I was like, if you don't show some pride in your reality, and then everybody gets to college, we all know, we've been there. Everybody want to act harder when they get to school. Why are you trying to act harder? Why don't you trying to stay down? Fool, stay up. So they ain't catching me with the twist, man. I've lived through too much to even get caught up like that.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because we touched on it a little bit in our last interview, but I actually did go through parts of your book before this interview. So you grew up, I guess, between Compton and Slauson?
Yeah, age 0 to 5. My mom had 2 kids by 19. So my sister's that's older, 17, me at 19. She was living in a house with my grandmother. We got a very aspirational family. My grandmother grew up, was an adult in Watts. Watts riots hit. She's like, we getting out of Watts. But she moves to Compton. This is what I'm talking about. This moving on up. This is the real story of ascension. Then my mother has 2 kids at 19, and she's like, I can't have my kids raised in Compton. I had lost 3 uncles, over the course of my childhood, to gangbanging and drugs, to the streets, all that stuff. And those are her brothers. So she's like, I'm raising y'all outside this neighborhood. So we moved to Slauson and Edgemar, South Central, over there, 60s hood. And we right on the edge of, damn, we close to like Windsor Hills and Baldwin Hills and, different conditions, different class. But we still right there off Slauson where they got Nipsey. So it's right there. And that was my reality growing up.
Right. And, you mentioned your uncles. I want to touch on that. So your uncles were all gangbanging, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was so young, but
3 of your uncles were gangbanging.
Yeah, a couple, maybe 2 of them for sure, maybe the 3rd. Right.
Okay. So 2 of them were in a gang. Do you know what gang they were in or no idea?
Palmer Block, Compton Crip. Yeah.
Okay. So 2 of them actually got murdered.
1 suicide, 1, murder because he got hit, but it took a while for him to die. But yeah, and then another one, murdered.
Okay, and I guess one of them went to prison and then committed suicide because he was supposed to go back in.
Right. He said, "I'm not going back in. I'm going in the body bag before I go back to jail."
Wow.
And he killed himself around the corner from my grandmother, and she heard the gunshot of her own son taking his life right where I grew up.
Did you have conversations with your uncle before he killed himself?
No, because I was so young, and it's weird. These were the conversations, or these were the moments. I had started to bubble as a young kid. Like, he's smart, but damn, he is talented athletically. Like, they were giving me money to race their homeboys who were like 18, 20, and I would smoke them. I'm 7, 8. Like, literally beat them for real. Out front, no shoes, street light to street light. I'm getting them at 7 and 8. I was a national track champion growing up. So I'm not this. I'm not all this. I was lean, a little tall, and I could go run. So I used to see them be the man in the hood, have all the cars, all the money, looked all fresh, whatever that is, had all the girls. But then they'd come in the crib, all that got undressed, and you could see the pain and sometimes crying. So they always had to keep that pecking order in terms of authority. Like, they could never come to me with their real pain, but I saw it. So we never had that conversation because they always just wanted to show their pride in me. Stay away from this. Don't do it like me, and go get it. And that was my message. I was able to live through them vicariously and go get it.
Okay, and you have that shirt on right now that says "Never Sold Dope." So
shout out to Mike Cole.
I'm sorry?
Shout out to my boy Mike Cole who hooked it up.
Okay, dope shirt.
Thanks.
Pun intended. So basically what you're saying is that because you were such an exceptional athlete, you were shielded from the gangs and the drugs and the violence and everything else like that?
I mean, shielded is loose because I still got jacked. I still got shot at a few times. They weren't shooting at Marcellus, but bullets went by Marcellus. They shot up my game one time. We playing on the game field, manual arts, bullets hitting the dirt. Went to games before I went to see Keyshawn, my boy growing up. Keyshawn Johnson went to one of his all-star games. Me and my dad, they shot us up. A couple other instances getting shot at. But my protection really came from my sister and my identity. Like, I knew who I was because I knew who I wasn't. I was not a dope dealer. I was not a gangbanger because I saw it for real. And I was like, hell no. 1, y'all not really winning because you wouldn't come in this house crying. And 2, I got to get it for all of us. My mom was a straight A student, had 2 kids, had to abort mission and focus on us. I got to pay that off. I ain't about to sit up here and be fresh for a few years and then die. So my identity was different. And because I had an older sister who was about that life, and I had the security of a lot of family members in the gangs, so don't mess with teddy bears, they would say. Because one dude tried, and it's in the book. It didn't work out so well. And And I'm not proud of that. That's just what my situation was. So I still got into a lot of issues, but they weren't heavily recruiting me for the street life because in part, I wasn't even enticed by it.
Okay. And you talked about a situation with the police where the police put a shotgun to your head?
Yeah, man. I was sitting on the bus stop and this was like summer school. I was at Westchester. And in summer school, they don't got the school bus, the Cheeto, you know. They ain't got the big yellow bus taking you. You got to take the RTD back in the day. And it was funny going to Westchester from where I lived off Slauson. Like, you knew, don't mess around like on Market Street because the Bloods would be up there. So don't take that bus. But I had to get home. So I got daring. My uncle bought me this Red Sox hat. And I knew when he bought it, because I ain't wear it for forever. I was like, I ain't wearing no damn Boston Red Sox hat where I live. And I wore it. One day I wore it, that day to school. And on the way back from school, these dudes jumped on the bus, surrounded me in the back, tried to keep it cool, but Spidey sense going off already. I'm like, they about to get me. And you stuck. Because if I run by them without even the conversation, who knows, they pull out, pow. So I got to play it cool, but I'm not cool. I know what's about to go down. They about to get me. But thankfully, the way they got me was minor in comparison to what it could have been. They just, hey, where you from, cuz? I'm like, when I heard the cuz, when you ask where you from, that's an introduction to an assault. It's about the assault. Something going down. We ain't asking that just because we're really curious. And two, I'm like, this is representing the other side. And I'm not from any side, but I do live in a Crip neighborhood. So I should have known better, which I did. And I was like, I don't bang. Oh, you don't bang? Well, then get rid of that hat. And then he start pointing through his jacket. And I was like, yeah. And then I'm like, just sitting there, man. So I've been through this stuff before. Police called me on that same route, same corner one time. It was a bank a block away, and he used to always get robbed. And one day I'm sitting there, police go by, and then all of a sudden, I mean, like in a movie, freeze, get on the ground. Now, I'm sitting there, youngster, I'm like 14, hoodie, and just black hoodie, regular clothes, on the ground. Shotgun to my head, few other guns are drawn, and I'm like this. And I remember I could see the cop who was still halfway in his car, but gun drawn, but really like more in communication with his CB. And I remember hearing it loud. They telling me not move, I'm not moving. Scare's not even a word. I don't know what it was. All I kept thinking is, please don't sneeze. Please don't trip. Don't move, nothing. And I could hear it all of a sudden loudly from that same cop who was hanging out his car. Suspect seen fleeing, some mistaken identity. Takes the gun off my head. Everybody else puts the guns back. Sorry, sir, as they're running back in their cars. That's trauma. That's trauma from the condition when you feel the full weight. That trauma and that condition that makes you feel the full weight. Did I go home and have a deep conversation about that? No. You're asked to go to that same bus stop the next day and act like nothing happened. So this is what comes into play when I'm hearing someone who wants to be the leader of a movement for those people. Because I've been that person and I've been this person. Trust me, life is never weightless, but it's a lot lighter. And that's all I wanted to highlight with Kaepernick and this cause. Y'all got to understand it ain't just race, it's class, it's condition. And we got to get our game up.
Okay, well, in your book, you talked about that you used to carry a gun everywhere, including into the locker room when you started playing professional football. So when did the gun carrying actually start?
I started carrying a gun when I got drafted. So I got drafted in April 97. And I had a homeboy, Potato, shout out to Tony, who got jacked, unfortunately, in front of his house. And he had a standard Yukon. I think he had some rims on it, but not too tricked out, not too crazy. And we were at the gas station first time he brought it up, and he told me, I was like, dang, for real? And then he was like, so what you gonna do? I was like, what you mean I'm gonna do? He said, man, you about to go to Buffalo, you about to be out there, you don't know anybody, and you got way more money and gonna have way more stuff than me by yourself. You better get a gun, protect yourself. Now he's going through his own trauma, and now he's trying to, guide me through it. And I'm like, nah, I don't do guns. I never played with guns. My dad wouldn't let me play with even a water gun, anything. So he planted a seed, but I was like, nah, I'm good. I guess a couple weeks later, I go back to Buffalo, come back, and I'm like, he got a little point here. I'm in this big old townhouse, and it's echoing, and there's no one there but me. And I'm like, people could find out real quick, real fast where I'm at. So then I got one my rookie year, that summer before my rookie year. And I had a little 380, and I kept it in this little wallet. And it looked like a wallet, and I would take it everywhere, every meeting, to our home games, not our road games. I ain't go that far because we had security in part with us, to the club, to the bar, with no intent to shoot anybody, no intent to be hard, a gangster, just the intent to be like, if you ever mess with me and cross that line, and for me, that line is right here. I ain't like fake bravado. You really cross that line, I'm ready. And I had it for like a year and a half. I started to get reckless with it, looking at it around the house a little more. One time I shot it just into the river, to the water out there in Buffalo. And then one night, this guy rolled up on me at the club after it, 2-something in the morning. I'm going home. I'm in the car by myself, and he walks in front of my car and stops. And then he looks at me. Then he turns around, U-turns, and starts to come to my driver's side door. I got a gun with me. So all of a sudden, I pull my gun out, turned it towards the door, turned it towards him, and was like, I hope this ain't that. And he knocks on my window, and it's 2-something in the morning, dark, and I roll the window down, and he's asking me directions. Excuse me, you know where so-and-so is? And right then, I answer this question, start rolling, start thinking. Without that gun there, I would have just answered this dude's question about directions. With this gun here, it's taking my mind to a completely different paranoid place. Get rid of this gun. On the ride home, use my little baby John Elway arm, to the water, wherever Niagara Falls goes and leads to. That gun somewhere at the bottom of all that. And that was it for me and guns.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people that got into similar situations who basically just start falling in love with their guns. And then there is, what's the name of the guy who shot himself?
Plaxico Burress?
Plaxico Burress, yeah. Who is, messed up his whole career over shooting himself in the leg with a gun that wasn't legal for where he was at the time. And there was another player who just, I think got sentenced to 3.5 years, right?
For gun charges?
Hold on a second. Here we go. It's an NBA player. Sebastian Telfair. Sentenced to 3.5 years.
Yeah, man. You get reckless with it, man. You get desensitized. You start almost... That's why I don't let my son even walk around the house. He's going through a little issue right now because his friends at school go pow, pow, and run up to him. I don't even want to start them on that cycle of desensitizing what a gun really is because they don't know the impact. So I know it's play for them, but maybe it's post-traumatic stress for me. It ain't play.
Right. And of course, you have the most famous one, Gilbert Arenas, who actually pulled out a gun in the locker room.
Real talk. I mean, insane. Like, I've seen a lot of guys lose a lot of money in the locker room on the team playing cards. I saw one cat almost lose $200,000. But damn, like you get to the point where you're just so nonchalant with a weapon that could take someone's life. And we know how it spirals out of control, these kids right now. A lot of them are desensitized to the effects. And then they lose their mind. Look, I've had blind rage before. I play football. I understand that when there's moments when you flash and black out, what's at your disposal is what's going to be used. That's why I'm like, man, y'all better be careful with these and distance yourself as much as possible because it's no coming back from it. It's just craziness.
Well, right, because you actually talked about bringing your gun into the locker room. You know, what team was this for?
Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo. I mean, imagine if an argument ensued and it started to escalate and you just blacked out and pulled your gun out on some Gilbert Arenas type shit. Like,
Yeah.
that could have technically happened to you.
Me personally, the 0.00001% of me, maybe, but I'm not a fighter like that. I thought I really was bringing it in just to store it between. I always thought danger was outside that locker room, but I had to bring it with me because I didn't know where I was going from practice or to practice. But I can't imagine there's a scenario where I would have pulled my gun. I can't imagine. Somebody walked up to me, you know who I was with last night? Who? Your girl. Like, even if he had pictures, okay, that's on her. Like, it's not, I'm not blasting the homie or the teammate, even though I could be disgusted. I could be mad, but I don't think I could go that far. But look, not all of us are in the same mindset. And some people are acting out through that weapon how tough they're not. I mean, I know that. That's what's crazy about all this, man. There's so much fake smoke out there right now because what happened in our world is that people who aren't qualified wanted to play the game. People who ain't really about it wanted to get in. So we started with participation trophies, just like as long as you show up, you're down, you're in. And people as adults now, with their criticisms, with them wanting to be involved in everything despite not really being qualified to do those things, they want a participation trophy. At least we tried. And then what's terrible being black is that when it's a black issue, everybody got to join in line. Like everybody got to get in one monolithic line and support. And how dare you criticize that? Everything needs to be built upon. Everything needs to be layered and sophisticated and nuanced. But we're not supposed to go and exchange these ideas. And I exchange them without the emotion. I bring levity to it, typically. The Kaepernick thing I said before, I purposefully left the levity out because I wanted people to really understand what I was talking about. But of course, they misconstrued that. But, you know, when you reveal the game to somebody, the reason why they trip is because they realize there's only two responses. Either the game just got told to you and you're playing it right, or you're getting played in it. And a lot of people just realize they're getting played.
Well, how old were you when you retired from the NFL?
32.
32. So how did you react when Andrew Luck retired as a top-tier quarterback at 29?
I was shocked like everybody else just at the news and the timing, but I respected him because I really felt where he was coming from. It was a personal story for me that I saw through Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck retired because he realized he could no longer be Andrew Luck. Now, y'all on the outside think that means he quit or he didn't try as hard. He realized I can never have my fastball again. It may look fast to y'all. It may look amazing to y'all, but that ain't me. And I respect that because my only regret with my career, truthfully, is that I should have tapped out earlier and reset my body because I kept getting hurt. I climbed that mountain. I was at the top. I was balling. And I kept getting hurt, but I kept plowing through it like, nah, I'll be all right. Nah, I'll be all right. And I signed a deal with the devil. And finally, it was like, nah, you ain't all right. I chose to fight through it, and I started to fall off and decline. Andrew Luck's like, I ain't going through this, man. Like, I am not even enjoying this. I'm never going to be myself in my mind and in my application to my craft. So before I rob myself any further of displaying what is not me, I'm going to tap out. Only two choices you really got.
Well, Andrew Luck is worth about $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
A hell of a lot of money, rich by anybody's standards. Enough money to support a lavish lifestyle for the rest of his life. But they're saying he gave up like $500 million when he walked away. $500 million, $500 million.
Billy.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a mind-blowing amount of money.
It is, man. But
and that's what a lot of people are focusing on. Like, you gave up $500 million.
Right. They're talking about the value proposition, right? But what you have to answer first, what does he value most? He's already at a threshold where it's going to do a lot, the money I have, and I have to do a lot to mess this up. You know, a lot of bad choices to mess this up. And you got to respect that. guys playing football know that if you play the game, it's going to hit back and it's going to hurt. So we're in a great place where the NFL is so lucrative that you don't have to play until you die on the field and still get paid enough where you can translate that into generational wealth. Now, he comes from a situation of privilege, so he's in a different mindset, but still, there's a lot of black players who's in that same mindset. That's why it's not about race only, y'all. It's about class, too. Ask Barry Sanders when he got his money. He wrote a check to retire. Ask about Calvin Johnson. He wrote a check to retire. You could ask about Patrick Willis, who retired even though he was a great player in his prime. You know, so many guys just look up one day, Rob Gronkowski, partying his butt off, winning Super Bowls. And enough of that. Like, the game hits back. And it was a sad state of affairs when everyone started booing him, not realizing the real rigors that he was going through.
Well, Des Bryant, I guess, turned down a $30 million contract from Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah,
you heard about that, the deleted tweet. He said, I turned down $30 million from the Ravens, all because of how I felt, and I wasn't going to disrespect their organization and myself. I know what I can do if my mind and body is on the right track.
Bingo. Yeah, man. I mean, look, you got to look at what your value is, what your opportunity is, and also what can you demonstrate. It's unfortunate he finally got his opportunity with the Saints, even though he got injured on his first day. And the contract wasn't exactly what he wanted. It was going to be a prove-it deal. I don't know if Dez is going to be back in this league, man. The carousel keeps turning, man. The turnstile doesn't stop. And that's what's so crazy about when people say blackball. You got to be careful what that really means because it's a packaged opportunity that you got to stay kind of in the current of it all. If not, my teammate in college, Rory Wilfork, was a better football player than me. It's not even close. Dude was better, by far better than me. Better instincts, knew the game, was going to go to big schools, went to Columbia like I could have went to big schools, went there. He was just better. But you know what I was? 6'4", 282, could run a 4.6, bench press 35, vert 39. Package. They weren't looking like me. If they wanted just the best football player, they would have took Rory. But I had that package. I wish people understood that.
Well, then there's the Antonio Brown situation. He's now on his second grievance right now over the helmet thing.
Yeah, they just denied the second one like they did the first one. Duh.
Okay.
Duh.
What do you think is really the purpose behind all this? I've never even heard of grievances over helmets and making a big deal out of it before.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. Antonio actually had a tremendous case against the NFL. He caught them with their pants down in this one. Basically, not to bore people with the details, they made a helmet change in part because of the settlement with all the head issues going on. And they got serious about the safety of the players and the helmets that they wore. Respect to that. But they also said, we're going to give everyone who's wearing a dated helmet a transitional year to wear their helmet that is dated. And then the year after, we're going to enforce this new rule. Did anybody read the tea leaves on that one? That basically means, for a year, we'll let you have potential brain hazard and expose you to these elements. But after that, we're going to get real serious with it. So hopefully none of you guys die in that 1 year. Go get them. And yeah. AB sitting there like, look, they killed the messenger without listening to the message. People don't respect AB enough, and his likability is taking a hit to the point where people are like, I don't want to hear it. But y'all should have listened. He was like, yo, if y'all gonna let me go out there for a year with this helmet and throw caution to the wind, why I just can't keep it? And Joe Staley, Google him, y'all, he made a big stink about his helmet switch. He did it on his own and broke his nose as soon as he switched helmets and went right back to the old ones that was dated. Tom Brady had an issue with it. Aaron Rodgers had an issue with it. It would have been interesting if those guys would have pursued the legal aspect, but Brady already took an L from the NFL pursuing his legal issues. And I think Aaron Rodgers is smart enough, your cow dog, to realize that fighting the NFL is a futile fight in most cases.
Well, at one point, Jay-Z's team announced that he was going to be an owner of an NFL team, a substantial owner.
Yeah.
And then shortly afterwards, actual NFL reporters announced that just wasn't true.
Yep.
And to this day now, it's been established that Jay-Z is not going to own an NFL team. Do you have any idea what that whole thing was about?
Yes, I do. This is what I do, man. I sit back and I say, wait a minute. Okay, so this is what happens. Jay-Z comes out of nowhere, it seems like to many people. I get you. I agree. Jay-Z is what? With the NFL? Doing an entertainment marketing social injustice deal? Let's see what this is about. So in terms of the scope of just him being an owner, this is how I see it happening. So Jay-Z comes out with this big deal, and everyone is supposed to accept it. It's Jay-Z. Like, he's taking the baton from Colin Kaepernick, thanks in this relay of you bringing awareness. It's time for a different action. Jay-Z gets the baton, social injustice, but it's fused in there with entertainment and marketing. And that's where it got combusted. Boom! Everybody was like, wait a minute, you trying to talk about money and talk about social injustice? And then Kaepernick's people, Eric Reed and them, took shots, and next thing you know, the message got mixed. Familiar? Kaepernick, familiar, mixed message. So this is what the NFL did, I think. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. So the NFL said, let's now let everybody know this is not just a deal for ownership, potentially. Those are denied. Let's focus. Social justice, injustice, marketing, and entertainment. Because the ownership thing got him, like, we don't want to say he's involved on that level if this is not even working on the other level. But people don't know how to connect the dots. So the Pittsburgh Steelers just got 5% of its ownership back from David Tepper. David Tepper owns the Carolina Panthers. David Tepper is the richest owner in the NFL. And my man Steve Ballmer is the richest owner in all sports, basketball, Go Clippers, Clip City, Chip City. But I digress. So we talk about he is the richest owner who had to sell back his shares to the Steelers. Steelers come out and say, we're not going to redistribute these shares internally. We're looking for outside stakeholders. That was July 27th, they said that. Jay-Z's deal happens right after that. We're looking for outside investors. All of a sudden, there's leaks of Jay-Z's deal going on. What I think is going to happen, and I don't know what the runway is in terms of time, was Jay-Z had a little understanding that those 5% shares are available for him to purchase to the tune of $122 million. Now, Jay-Z buying a majority stake in an NFL team, good luck. The Panthers went for 2.2, and that's the Panthers. That ain't like the top tier of franchises. 2.2 billion. And to buy a team, you need 30% cash day one. So let's just do some simple math. Jay-Z just became a billionaire. Y'all think he about to give away $700-800 million on the side just to own a team? So I think there's still some legs to him becoming an owner, but I think they're playing it slow because of all the noise around it.
Well, last time you and I talked, it was actually at the ESPN office.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But since that time, you moved over to Fox.
Yeah.
You know, which some people consider the evil empire.
Right. Oh, yeah,
so
I've noticed.
You know, I mean, Fox News and Fox Sports are not the same thing, but a lot of people put Fox under that same umbrella.
Unreal.
Did you feel a certain type of way when you moved over to Fox and kind of what people were saying once that happened?
Oh, yeah, man. I knew people were going to say that, not only because I'm at Fox, but because I'm with Jason Woodlock, who's daring in thought, goes there, and a lot of time ruffles our people's feathers. But I'm my own man, and I have my own unique thoughts. I don't sit and take things at face value. I'm not a mob mentality group thinker. I'm always going to think for me. So no matter where you put me in circumstance and condition, I'm going to have to do me. That's why I made it from where I made it, because I never bought into what's around me and how it looks. It's about what I'm about to do with it. So, yeah, it's funny. I criticized Kaepernick at ESPN, but I was on a bloopers show. I was on a comedy show. I was at ESPN, which is deemed liberal. So everybody looking at me like, whatever. But all this noise now is credence to the fact that I'm somewhere where y'all like, oh, let's take these words seriously. And who I'm working with, Jason, let's take him seriously. Because I'm saying some of the stuff that I've said before, but it's landing different. So I get the selective perception. Oh, he gonna get the Fox and get brand new and start saying it. No, one, my show is different. I'm not sitting there looking at dogs water ski with squirrels. I'm talking about real stuff, bruh. So real stuff's gonna come out and real people gonna get hurt in the process, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, Marcellus Wiley, man, always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you keeping it 100. A lot of people in these corporate positions have to bite their tongue and not say certain things, but it looks like you don't subscribe to none of that.
Hell nah, man. It's amazing. And look, I still respect those who do. If I showed you my phone right now of how many group texts, DMs, people who's trying to stay under the radar that are scholars, I mean, celebrities, ballers, Hall of Famers, superstars who keep saying, man, keep speaking that truth on what you're talking about. Look, they ain't even got to pom-pom me, man. They ain't even got to cheer me on. It's how I was raised, man. Grandma, mama, daddy, sister, that's how we roll.
It's what it is, man. Until next time.
Yes,
Always
sir.
a pleasure.
Always love, Vlad.
Peace.
Yes, sir.